Freebird, the Ashley Freeman story, is a Thirsty Goat original podcast. This is episode 2 of a multi-part story. We encourage you to go back and listen to episode 1, Childhood, before listening to this episode. Life can be difficult even when things are easy for us. Challenges can come into our lives that we haven't experienced before. At these times, it's easy to look for ways to run. As Ashley's trip down the addiction cycle begins, it begins with her running from herself, her mistakes, and rejection. This keeps Ashley chasing for ways to fulfill the emptiness within her. Addiction can capture anyone without warning, and the depression and regret that comes along with the addiction only powers the addiction more. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, please reach out to 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357 for information on facilities and services. Addiction is real, but it doesn't have to be the period to your life. This story of addiction and overcoming the shackles and chains it places on you is my friend Ashley's. We hope you enjoy. Previously on Freebird, Ashley discussed her childhood and growing up in Mitchell, Indiana. Ashley discussed her interests and her ability to find things in common with almost everyone. The episode ended during Ashley's junior year when Ashley admitted she made a mistake against one of her best friends at the time. This is where we pick up this week's episode. Freebird, episode 2, Running Away.
And I'ma see Arizona, I've been in Georgia. Sun is shining in Florida. I'm a free bird smoking on California in Indiana. Go where I want when I want. I think I'ma go west and I'ma see Arizona, I've been in Georgia. Sun is shining in Florida. I'm a free bird smoking on California in Indiana.
Me and a group of people were drinking, and we all separated that night, and I slept with one of my best friend's boyfriends. And I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do. I told one person that I trusted, and the person that I trusted told everybody, and that's a hard thing to handle as an adult. Everybody makes mistakes. But when you had a class like ours that was as close as ours, and you do something like that, I talked to my friend about it eventually. I didn't just go up to her and, hey, I screwed up. We talked about it. But right before our senior trip, all of our friends, they wanted nothing to do with me, You, Carly Mikulski, were the only two friends that still would talk to me after that.
And we've talked about this before. I realize now that I was really naive and maybe dumb. And I hate it because I remember the situation that you are talking about, but I do not remember it being this massive buildup. And that's not discrediting what you were saying. I guess from my perspective, I never remember anybody coming to me and being like, you should not talk to her. But I totally believe it. And I know what you've told me now, but that was never in, I guess I don't remember ever getting friction, and maybe just nobody cared enough about me to say it, but I never got friction. I did not have any beef with you. But I also do know, and you're exactly right. The class was so tight that the lines were drawn.
So these contributing factors, and I had started, I do not think the meth use had started yet. It was real close. So I had one of my jobs in high school was also at a tanning place. I got fired from that job, and I started working at a restaurant and bar. So waiting tables, getting tips, drunk people coming in, all kinds of things, different situations, meeting new people, meeting older guys,
You have to use your sexuality a little bit to get the best tip you can get.
Yeah. We were told, the shorter the skirts, the, tighter the shirts, the better the money we were going to make. And I'm like, okay,
Also at a time that you've started working out, you're liking, not that I ever remember you not being attractive, but you're liking your body. We're all in a high school, age where we love attention. I mean, that's bottom line. And now you've got a job where you're getting it.
Yeah. Yeah. And meeting people that, I met guys a lot older than me. I met a lot of girls a lot older. I met new friends. So here I am in this new job, and I've screwed up my high school life the way I saw it. And, when something happens, there's a fork in the road. I ran, I ran. I was willing to do, anything, whatever. Here's these new people. They've got this. I'll try it. I was trying to run away from me. I was trying to escape myself, my feelings, my mistakes, everything. And there was the perfect opportunity. I can't remember a time when I was ever just that one friend person. You know what I mean? I liked a whole group of friends. And I think that that's kind of how I did it, and I'm still that way today. I still love, I love all my friends, everybody around.
You're a very social person.
Yeah.
I mean, you always have been.
Yeah.
This is probably, honestly, as funny as this is, as long as we've known each other, this is probably the most intimate conversation we have ever had.
Yeah.
We know a lot about each other. I love you dearly. But both of us, because I'm a social person too, and like a lot of people, I don't know that we've spent this much time just alone ever in our lives.
No.
And we've spent days and days on end together with other people around.
Yep.
So I understand your perspective on that, because I'm that same way. I want people.
Yeah. Like a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you start into these, this new group, these new friends. That's when you first try meth. What is that experience like?
It was like, you feel like you're Superman, you're invincible. Nothing can hurt you. It almost felt like it completed me in a weird way. It's like, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I need. This is my new best friend.
At that moment, did you have that feeling of like, I shouldn't be doing this, but I should? Or were you so broken that you were just looking for anything?
I knew what I was doing. I didn't know what I was opening up, what kind of door I was opening up at that point. But it wasn't like, just give me anything. It was like, I know what this is, I did it, and, the stimulants I'd been on, like, it wasn't all that different, but it was, because, obviously I knew it was some illegal, yeah, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, really.
So you go the first time. When do you feel like it went from, I tried this, to it's a habit?
Well, I kind of knew I was in trouble. So let's go back for a second.
Okay.
Because I haven't given much background. My mom, up until that point, my mom had always worked for the court. She always worked for the judge my whole life, until that point. In high school, my mom married a conservation officer who was, I believe he had 35 years in at that point. So I knew I couldn't go home that way,
Your mom was not naive and stupid.
No. She's one of the best detectives I have ever known. I mean, she's good. You can't get it past her. Nothing. And my kids think, they have no idea. They just have no idea they're playing with fire. I knew, okay, so the first time I got high, I knew, so she was calling me, because she was paying for she had my phone in her name. The car was in her name. The Mustang was in her name. I didn't come home from work, I don't even know what I told her. Probably that I was hanging out with friends,
She seen the transition of your friends?
Yes. So I remember the day that I decided I wasn't going back to school. We had gone on a family, I don't know if it was summer or spring break. I think it was summer. Went to Pensacola to visit my uncle. He was living down there. And I just remember telling her, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. We had been fighting up until that point. She was aware of what was going on with me. I don't know how much I really let her in. When I believe I was 17 when my mom and Mark got married. And, this is the house we grew up in. We'd live in that house for, since I was 5, I think. And, you're just not used to, here a new father figure comes in. At first it was okay. After a while, kind of get territorial. Like, this is my house. They think it's theirs, We got along okay at first. And then, he liked to breathalyze me sometimes when I was coming in. And, just...
You were reaching that age of freedom. And you were searching for freedom, as you said. And here comes in this new figure who is pulling you back in. That had to be a immediate head-butting moment.
Yeah, it was.
You were talking about Mark moving in, and your mom, when you were fighting with her, kind of about going back, and you had made the decision you weren't going back.
She had told me, I had to get my GED, and how I feel really looking back on it all is, when I went running as far as I could on the other end of the spectrum, here I'd lived this life right here, and this is who all my friends knew, and then a series of events and choices, I wanted to become somebody else, so when I went running, I just kind of created this new person, because ultimately my choices led to kind of the ultimate rejection. So I kind of built this person up that didn't care about anybody anymore, didn't care about anything. I went from, respecting my parents, respecting, rules and things to, fuck you, fuck this, I'm done. I had no idea where I was going to run to, I just knew that I wanted away from everything. I wanted away from myself. I ended up quitting school. I did go get my GED. So before you guys graduated, I had got my GED. The test I hear since then has gotten hard and a lot different. But I just remember taking it, passing it, and I was done. I got some different jobs, I stayed in drugs, I stayed with people who, did drugs, sold drugs. I mean, it became my whole life. I remember it was my 18th birthday, 19th birthday. I had been, into it with my mom several times. She had me taken to the 5th floor because I wasn't sleeping sometimes for weeks. I had lost a ton of weight. I wrecked my car driving around high. And I remember being in a hotel room with a friend, and she called me and she's like, "You're not coming home." My uncle lived in Pensacola. She said, "You're going to go down there and live with him for a while. Get your shit together." So I went down there and I loved it. Who doesn't love Florida? I loved it.
And especially with your uncle. And I mean that. Like, your uncle is one that it's a good time no matter what you're doing. Yeah. You can watch paint dry and it's going to be funny.
Yeah. It was too. It was. He was great. At the time he worked at Dana, and he got me a job there. He was a supervisor, and they had a great time. That's always what it was. There was a swimming pool in the backyard, in-ground swimming pool. He always had people over from work. The beach was 15 minutes away, white sand, and I didn't ever want to come back to Indiana, ever. Like, I loved it down there. But when you have problems and you try to run from them for so long, you don't. Because one day you wake up and there you are, and they're still there, And I woke up and found myself in a beautiful place surrounded by new friends, new faces, new people. But I still wasn't right. I still couldn't forgive myself. I didn't go down there and use meth, but I went down there and drank. And when I drink, I have a tendency to get really depressed. That's what I did. It was so depressing.
You were in beautiful Pensacola, warm people, good people, new people. You talked about, and I think you can start seeing some themes in your story here. And you talked about that first time you used meth, and you'd been on stimulants for so long. It makes sense that when you drink, you get depressed. If your body has always craved a stimulant to get yourself up, alcohol being a natural depressant is going to bring you down. Did you almost feel like you were an imposter? And I mean that in this way. You've made these decisions at home. And again, you made these decisions in the high school. You ran from that. You found the new group. You start meth. You're with these people. You're making some bad choices. Your mom steps in. I shouldn't say run. You did. You were kicked in the ass to go. Was it hard for you to look at that and think, this could be good? Like, did you feel like I don't deserve this opportunity?
I don't feel like I've thought that way. I don't think it was I don't deserve this. It literally was me running from one situation to another, I was living with my aunt and uncle. My uncle was a drinker, and he didn't care if I drank, so I go down there, and, as kids, and maybe still a little bit, sometimes we want everything instantly. You know, we want instant gratification. We want to see something change right now, or we don't want to put time into it. I went down there. I was working with my uncle. I met a guy that down there. He was quite a bit older than me. We drank, we partied, we hung out on the beach. He worked, I worked, and then we started fighting. You know, things were good for a while. We started fighting. He drank a lot, and he wasn't really the nicest person when he drank, and I wasn't always either. You know, so essentially, I was just running from one uncomfortable situation to another. You know, and then you find yourself. I found myself down there in a mess, away from most of my family. You know, I kind of had my uncle pissed off at me, you know, because I went from this place to this place. And I really got into pills when I was down there. So in Florida, still probably, but back then it was very easy to get prescribed whatever you wanted. I go to the doctor, they gave me nerve pills, they gave me pain pills, they gave me muscle relaxers, and if you ran out, they give them to you again. I had a complete cocktail of anything and everything I wanted, you know, and I may have thought I was happy, but the people around me hated me, you know. They hated me. So, yeah, I was running up debt. I was trying to go to school. And I found myself in a mess, you know. I had to call my mom up in Indiana and have her come and not bail me out of jail, but bail me out of the financial mess, you know, that I had got myself into. And, you know, with every job I lost, with every, even minor rejection, it added to that sense I already had, you know, the negative self-worth, the negative, you know, I can't do anything right. And, you know, when I finally had made a big enough mess down there, I came back here. And I brought myself with me.
And isn't it amazing how when we fall in those ruts, like, no matter where we go, when we're not in a good spot, we constantly can find people that keep us in a bad spot. Like, I have no idea who the guy was in Pensacola, but like, you were in a bad spot. You didn't meet someone who, you never meet the person that's going to build you up and change you. And it's always, you seek out those same people that are dealing with the same shit you are.
Yeah.
And it compounds it.
Yeah.
It just continues to compound it. Yeah. What was it like when you had to call mom?
So my mom knew some of what I'd been going through because she and I were always close. We've always been close, you know. The times when I'd shut her out the most, I was really doing something wrong, you know. So she knew a lot of what I was going through down there. You know, she knew some relationship stuff. She knew about the drinking, you know, she would come down and visit and, you know, she knew. So I don't feel like at that time it was like a blow to my pride. It wasn't. She knew I wouldn't have called her if I didn't really need it, you know.
That's so powerful. You know, that really through all of this, you've always known your mom's got your back. I mean, that's a huge shout out to her.
Yeah.
If you like what you've heard so far from Freebird, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. This helps us greatly move up the charts. Also, if you want to support the work we do, please head over to our Patreon account. For $10 a month, you can not only get early access to all the episodes, behind-the-scenes content, you can also support the work that we're doing with Freebird to help support those winning the battle against addiction. Check out our theme song by Boogus, Freebird, available wherever you get your music.
Boom out in Jupiter, stand still, now you're close to the Lucifer. Got a Colt 45 trying to loosen up. Got a buzz online trying to boost it up. Got a dad and a mom trying to make him proud. Got a bag in a bong trying to bake a pound. I'ma up my ante, touch my Grammy, go my family down to Miami. No, they can't control my visa. My world, I roam like Caesar. My song, my girl, my diva. Good drink, my good sativa. God knows I'm far from lousy. Lord knows I'm smoking loudly. Hot box, I'm riding cloudy. Eyes drop like Ronda Rousey. I think I'ma go. That's the I'ma see Arizona. I've been in Georgia. Sun is shining in Florida. I'm a free bird smoking on California in Indiana. Go where I want. I think I'ma go. That's the I'ma see Arizona. I've been in Georgia. Sun is shining in Florida. I'm a free bird smoking on California in Indiana. So hard, ain't never been lazy. I'ma use the two legs that God gave me. Go so long, bitch, I'm Tom Brady. I go Kobe, drop about 80. Then I roll out in a drop top, baby. 285, I do about 80. Push to the limit when I get in it. I don't get high till my third blunt finish. When I can't deal with the weight and the pain of the world, I write my pain and I sing for the world. Came from afar, ain't came for the fame, but I came for the change I could bring to the world. When I can't deal with the weight of the world, I write my pain, I sing for the world. Came from afar, ain't came for the fame, but I came for the change I could bring to the world. I go where I want. I think I'ma go. That's an I'ma see Arizona. I've been in Georgia. Sun is shining in Florida. I'm a free bird smoking on California in Indiana.